Namaste, everyone. I hope you are continuing to enjoy our series of Amatya Sampat, the excellences of a minister. And these are applicable today to every single manager who has to accomplish projects, assignments, tasks, activities with success. Now, we have a series of around 25 such competencies. And we are now on the 7th competence. We already covered Janpado, Abhijataha, Swavagraha, Krutashilpa, Chakshushmana, Pradnyo. And today we'll go to the next one, which is called as Dharyishnu. Now, Dharyishnu is something that became especially applicable during the pandemic. So I'm sure you'll relate to it very well. So first, let's understand what is Dharyishnu, then we'll go to the example. So Dharyishnu is a close cousin of the word Dhairya. Now, Dhairya typically gets translated as patience. So Dharyishnu is connected to patience. But imagine being patient without action. Is that always a good thing? Not so. You could be patient just waiting for an opportunity to come by you for things to change and become favorable. And you could absolutely miss the bus. So Dharyishnu actually means persevering while being patient. I repeat, persevering while being patient. What does that mean? It means that patience and perseverance are two sides of the same coin. You have to still act, but at the same time persevere, knowing that the results of this may or may not be useful or successful the way you had originally intended. Because Dharyishnu typically comes up, the quality becomes absolutely applicable during times of adversity. So let's go to the times of the pandemic. And do you remember how when the pandemic first struck, there was a lockdown and the lockdown meant that everything was closed? Well, almost everything. The essential services were still on. Yes, the essential services were still on, meaning medicines and basics like milk, some groceries and stuff like that. Now, most businesses actually were cursing themselves and brought upon themselves decline because they were not even thinking of what's going to happen next. They were just caught up with the uncertainty and did not know how to respond because it was the first time such a thing had occurred in a long, long time. One organization that took great advantage of this and leveraged it is Amul. And what did Amul do? Now, I want to tell you before I go to Amul, how did other players in dairy farming and the industry of dairy, how did they respond? Majority of them simply cut down their production. Why? Because they presumed that since there is a lockdown, most of our consumption is going to get badly hit. Hotels were closed, offices were closed. So who's going to consume? Forgetting that, hey, the same people who are going to stay in hotels or would have been staying in hotels or would have been going to office are now going to be at home. Are they going to change their patterns of consumption? Probably did not ring a bell for them. But Amul took a risk because they thought of possibilities over there. Now, mind you, the adversity hit everyone. The pandemic hit everyone. The lockdown hurt everyone. But Dharyishnu is how, through your patience for things to work and your perseverance of taking the right actions or taking actions which you make right, you can probably construct success. Nobody can guarantee. But what Amul did is they actually ramped up their production. Yes, you heard right. They ramped up their production. So while all other dairy players cut down majorly, Amul started producing more. Right? Because the leader there, Mr. Sodhi, had actually computed in his mind that if people are not going to be there in offices and hotels and on tour, surely they are going to consume more being at home. And his calculation was absolutely right. So, folks, the consumption of milk, of butter, of cheese, of dairy products, all dairy products was ramped up by Amul. And they benefited big time. In fact, they grew far more than what they would have during normal times. Why? Because remember, the other dairy players had all cut down and Amul was able to grow. In fact, you'd be amazed to know that they introduced 30 new products during the lockdown and thereafter. And this held them in such good stead, my dear friends, that they really made a fortune during this period. You get the idea now of Dharyishnu? Yes, there is difficulty and there's no guarantee. There is no assurance of how things will work out. So I still need to be patient and wait for things to work around. But when I'm being patient, am I still hustling? Am I still thinking what possibilities exist for us? Am I taking action? Am I still persevering despite the challenges? And yes, you will find success. So friends, remember that Dharyishnu is that which urges managers, especially when things are not working out as expected, to be patient, but also be persevering by way of different possibilities and different approaches. And you may find that things actually go your way. So my question to you, following this particular competence, is as follows. When you are confronted with a difficulty, especially a big one, like a market downturn or a great resignation, as we called it, or any other, the organization being struck with certain difficulties, let's say legal difficulties or so on. What does it do to you? What is your natural reaction, my dear friends? What is the attitude that you hold in your mind? Okay, I want you to dwell on this and then refer back to our discussion on Dharyishnu. See if you can practice the same. So for now, Dhanyavad and Namaste to you, friends.